And I still think that it isn't a love story. It is the story of the son. He was trying to understand the man that he loved and the man that played such a big part in his life. This story is about the journey of three people and how they had and are forced to deal with the death of one person that has a great effect in their life, and that happened to be the father of the kid, who is the same man as the husband of the wife, and it's also the same man as the boyfriend of the gay man. One of the interesting things here is how they actually choose to unfold the narrative. The entire story actually happened from the point of view of the son. And so the characters are introduced to you from the point of view of the son. And so however it is that the son sees this character in the movie is how you as an audience would see it. You would think the same thing that the son is thinking because that's the point of view that you're seeing. And so that's essentially your eye in the entire narrative. So everything unfolds through his consciousness and through his eyes and through his own growth and through his own interpretations and through his own emotions. And that is very tricky and very dangerous because this is a kid. He's actually, I think he's 13 or 14 or something like that. And he's going through puberty and he just lost his father. And so all of these emotions tumbled inside of him. There's a lot of confusion and there's a lot of distortion. And so you as an audience would see that because that's the only emotions that you know. This is the only point of view that you're seeing. And so you're sharing that anger, that anguish, that sadness, and that confusion with him. So I wasn't really surprised when I found myself not liking any of the characters. I did not like his mother. I did not like the lover, and I do not like him. All I saw in them were their flaws. There is this trick that we use in writing any kind of story, where you connect first before you disconnect, and that principle is true in almost any kind of relationship in the movie or the story, whether that's a character with a character or the character with you as an audience. You need to connect first so that the audience becomes invested before you disentangle everything and make a chaos of everything. In this movie though, they didn't start out that way. There was no attempt to make me connect to the characters. Since I was seeing everything from the point of view of the kid, and everything started when everything was already in chaos in his life, all I saw were everybody's flaws. And so I was hating everybody. One was a nagging mother, and then there's the indifferent lover, and then there's this rebellious, confused kid who didn't know what he wanted to do with his life. I also wasn't surprised when I found myself wanting to tune out halfway through the movie. I just wanted to stop because the anger and the disgust were just becoming too much for me. I just wanted to stop it because I didn't understand why I had to put myself through the anguish when I could just turn the TV off. But there is a payoff. Just like any other movie, there is a payoff, because at the end of it, I did end up understanding everybody. I did not end up liking anybody, but I did end up understanding everybody. I understood the indifference of the lover. I understood the nagging mother, why she's always been loud and whatever. And I understood this kid who was confused and angry and sad. And it did make me think that probably that's the actual point of the whole movie, that this is not about liking people. This is not about loving them. And it's not even about being empathetic. It's just about understanding who they are and where they are coming from. And if you pull that principle towards, and if you apply that principle to one of the central storyline of the movie, which is the relationship of the father of the child and this other man, it surprisingly encapsulates what it is that I personally think we should do about the situation. That there's always that religious belief, there's always those values that will come clashing against homosexuality and the rights of gay people. And maybe there is no need to change their values. There is no need to make them accept that this is what is right for these people. As long as there is respect and as long as there is understanding, there will always be peace, because that's what I felt. Some sort of release, some sort of relief, because I finally understood where these characters are coming from. Next is the cinematography. It's undoubtedly beautiful. It's so great and so beautiful that even though everything is ugly, the places that they chose, the houses that they chose to shoot, everything was ugly. And yet there's always this poetry in those ugliness. There's always poetry in the disorganization, and there's always poetry and meaning behind every displaced and unorganized item within your view. The texture and the coloring of the movie is kind of rough. It's not soft. So there's always, it feels edgy. It's very rough. And the bed, the main music bed that was used for the entire movie actually parallels the cinematography. There's always that, it feels unfinished. I think that's the word. Everything feels unfinished. Just like the song that is playing, it feels like there is something there in the music, but it's so bare, it wasn't finished. And it again parallels the story of the main character that was never there. Actually, the central character where everyone is connected to. It is an echo of the life that he has lived, because he lived an unfinished life. That's what held me in, because I felt like every scene is unfinished. There were so many sentences and so many lines that were left hanging, that I just had no choice but to hold on to it, because I need to know. And just like the kid, that was his journey. He just needed to know. That was the only thing that he wanted and needed. I did, however, at some point, especially towards the end, when everything was coming very, very close to the conclusion, I did start asking what the movie was all about, because I started the movie thinking that this is a love story, and it just wasn't there. I felt like the love isn't there. I didn't feel the connection of the man to the characters in the story. I felt like I was being told that this man loved this person, this man loved this person, but I did not see it and I did not feel it. They never connected me to the man and the relationship. And so I didn't feel the loss when it started. If this is a love story, you would make me root for this love. It doesn't matter which love I should be rooting for, but I would be rooting for at least one of the relationships here. But there just wasn't there. I do think that it isn't a love story. I think the relationships of these characters in the story, especially the wife and the lover, I think those two relationships just happen to be there. But it is not a story of their love with the man. It is the story of the son. He wanted an understanding. And I won't be telling you exactly what kind of understanding he was seeking for, but because I don't want to give the story away. But that's what the story was about. He was trying to understand the man that he loved and the man that played such a big part in his life. He wanted to understand this person. He wanted to understand what happened and where he's coming from and what kind of emotions he was feeling towards the end of his life. The relationships of all of these people with his father, those are incidentals, but that's not the actual story. They are important incidentals in the story, but that's not the story. Towards the end of it, I like the story. I like the movie. I think it's a great storytelling. I think it's a great movie in general. But I don't feel the love for the characters in the story. I feel like I understand him. I understand them, all of them. And which puts me back into a full circle with what I was talking about earlier. Maybe there was no intention by the director or the scriptwriter to make the audience love the characters. It was just all about understanding. Yes, I still feel I still would have wanted to understand and be able to answer the one question that the wife asked, and that is, was everything a lie, at least in the relationship that they have? That was not answered. That question was not answered, and I would have wanted to answer that. I don't know if that's just me being emotional or whatever, but I would have wanted an answer. I don't understand why it was never answered. So, in gist, I think it's a good movie. I think it is definitely worth your time, and I would highly recommend watching it.